Here is the third and final installment of the Q&A. Very, very rarely. I actually kind of made a bit of a video on this before, kind of about Ben and how we communicate and stuff. And we do, I wouldn't say like, we do a lot of similar sessions.
Yeah,
And we're using that to like gauge progress. So let's say it's a 3 by 10 minute session. We've got all the sort of past data from that, and then we can be like, well, you know, a couple of weeks ago you did 405 watts, and this time you've done 410. So we're tracking improvement across a whole lot of different sessions and a whole lot of different time periods, rather than just being FTP obsessed and going out and doing a 20-minute test or an hour's test all the time.
That might differentiate us from a lot of the other coaches out there. And again, we're not saying that their methods are bad, but the way we use power meters is basically exactly that, is to track progression. So rather than like training prescription, I don't want to go and say, okay, go out for 2 hours at 220 watts and whatever. Like, you know, if I tell him, you know, go for 2 hours easy or zone 2, it's generally the sessions is executed perfectly. So it's more for the interval work, and we have very structured sessions or that we repeat, and through those we can track sort of that progress. So, you know, like we spoke about the 6 by 4 minute session earlier. Great. So last week your session average was 450 watts, let's say. Cool. This week we're going to try and do a bit more. We usually add an interval or 2, and let's say you go out and you do 8, and now your session average is 460. And then we can see, okay, progression. Very rarely, if ever, do I ever say, we need to know what your FTP is. Go find a 20-minute hill and smash it, or an hour effort and stuff like that.
I also think that's a waste of time, because you have to like rest up to it a lot of the time, one 20-minute interval is not actually that much stress.
Yeah.
Plus, so, I mean, you could do another one afterwards, but
plus my big thing with that is like, that's your FTP on that day.
Yeah.
So then the following week it could be different. It could be so. We try not to. I'd rather see like this almost like global improvement from like, let's say 2 minutes to like 60 minutes. You know, 4, 10, 20, 60-minute efforts. If we can see improvements over that, like over each of those time periods, over each of those structured sessions, then I'd be more sort of excited than sort of one 20-minute effort
for sure
every 4 weeks or something.
And that's massively motivating to me, because it's not like I have to wait 4 weeks or 8 weeks or whatever to see an improvement in FTP, and that's that. It's like every sort of session we can go back and be like, this is what you did previously, or this is what you did a couple of weeks ago or last, whatever. So I've always got something to chase. And in general, if I go and do a session, I'll either remember what I averaged last time or have a rough idea, or you would have set a goal, or I'll go and look it up, and then I know, okay, I'm chasing that number, and that allows me to push a bit harder. And then it's also then I can send it to you, and you'll be like, okay, well, since 2 weeks ago we've actually improved 10 watts or 5 watts, whatever it may be.
Plus it can be quite demoralizing. I mean, if for the athlete, I think, like, you know, you have like a bad day, like you didn't sleep well or something, and you go out, you do your 20-minute like FTP, and you like 15 watts less than last week, you're going to be a bit bummed. And it might not be, it might just be due to the bad sleep, maybe poor nutrition for like that week or something, or like you're fighting an illness. So, you know, you put a lot of stock into like doing like one single test every like 4 weeks to gauge progress, when just look at sort of consistent improvements throughout the season. I mean, you know, with you, like, not every session is a PB, even within a block. Like sometimes we see like improvement and then maybe a slight dip, and then we'll look at the dip and we'll go, okay, cool, well, what happened here? And, you know, maybe you were a bit tired from the preceding training, or maybe you know, you didn't sleep well because the nightclub across the road was making noise, etc. So
lure.
So that can happen, and you know, then as long as we come back, sort of as long as you respond to that, and I think again, like, the communication there is important. Then you come back, and then, you know, the fourth session in that block can be better, and that's why I think sort of monitoring progression that way, rather than just putting so much stock into a single effort, can be a lot better.
And just because it's not a PB doesn't mean that it wasn't a good training
session, or that you didn't get what you needed.
Because I often just go, look, it wasn't the best session, like the numbers weren't amazing, but I'm broken, so we got what we needed.
But sometimes as well, like and that's why when we look at your data, we plot the individual ones. It's because you can maybe go and you'll do like a 3 by 10 minute session, and you'll like, your first one will be a PB for 10 minutes, like ever, like all-time PB, but like the session average is maybe slightly under 5 watts or something less than last time. But you've sort of broken new ground, and then guaranteed by the time you do that next session, you're going to be sitting like higher because like what you're capable of.
Yeah. I don't think where you are in the season should matter, because if it's not working, it's not working. You need to switch. You're better off switching now than switching at the end of the season and the whole thing's been a disaster. From my side, I would say, have you been like executing his plan 100%? So I don't think you can blame him if he's given you a 2-hour easy ride and you've gone on a 4-hour group ride, or if he's given you some intervals to do and you kind of haven't really done them. So I think you've got to at least execute the plan 100%, so that you can go to him and be like, look, I've done this and it hasn't helped. And then I think you've obviously got a leg to stand on. I would also say you need to give feedback to your coach and be like, look, I've done this 100%, but we're not moving anywhere, because he also needs that information so that he can say, look, actually, yeah, you're right, it's not working, we need to try something different. Because there are people who will respond better to different things, so you need to kind of work in a different way. Like, I think for me, one of the interesting things with us was the taper. It took a while for me to figure out how to taper for events, because we would kind of taper down and sometimes it would be really good and sometimes it would be a bit of a miss. And I would just have, like, the only way I could describe it was like block legs and they wouldn't work. And I said to you, like, look, this is happening, and we kind of took a couple of tries, but we eventually figured out a way to like work with it or work around it and whatever. And if I'd just gone, hey, I'm terrible, every time I go and race I'm walking away, I didn't really give you a chance to try and figure it out or try and help me figure it out. So I think from that side, there's got to be communication, and you've got to give him a chance to maybe work with you, and you've got to give him the information so that he can make decisions. But if he's kind of not doing that, not providing you feedback, and you're not improving even though you're doing exactly what he said, then I think you can change, and sooner rather than later.
Yeah, from my side as a coach, I mean, I definitely encourage you to, particularly just from your comments, it doesn't sound like you're particularly happy with them for whatever reason, and that's fine. Then
these guys do long distance coaching, by the way.
Checks in the mail. Is to look at, like maybe a polite email just requesting some feedback on what you've done. Look, admittedly, like coaches drop the ball. I've dropped the ball with athletes before, and occasionally you just get that reminder email just saying, look, please look at my data if they've sent you data, etc. And can you provide me with some feedback? So I would encourage you to do that initially. If the feedback is still doesn't come, or then there's no analysis, and you're not really happy with the level or the content of the feedback, then I would suggest that you move on. And again, like I think when you start your relationship with a new coach, assuming you find someone else, start with sort of like your goals or your aspirations and what you expect from the relationship. That's a key as well. So that everyone's on the same page going in. And I mean, from us, I mean, I work with other athletes other than Ed and Sarah, and everyone works differently. So what's quite nice about Ed is that he'll go out, do a session, and when he's finished, downloads the data, emails it to me. Generally, I'm at my computer, so I can analyze it immediately and send it through. But I've probably got, between you, Sarah, and maybe one or two others that I work with who do that. And others, sometimes you've got to chase up for data or download the data yourself, which isn't an issue at all, but like it's just people work differently. So I think if you make sort of your expectations clear with your coach, current or new, if you change, that's probably a good place to start, and then at least you can all work towards the same sort of thing. I think that's key. But I think you as an athlete, remember, ultimately you're a customer as well, but you need to be happy with the level of the service, and if you're not, then there's nothing wrong with changing, and sort of shop around, sort of read sort of information on coaches, chat to people who train by the same coach. That's always a good one as well. And just see what's out there.
And I would say if you're new to it, like just simplify it down. Kind of learn to listen to your body, especially on the indoor trainer, because it's a terrible time to, like, it's just not pleasant. But just ride easy, like focus on, I think she had heart rate, and it was like focus on your heart rate for like pacing. Don't worry about speed. Don't worry about like necessarily your cadence, all that kind of stuff. Just keep it simple. And if you feel like riding harder, then maybe ride harder. And if you feel tired and you want to ride easy, then ride easy.
I would go maybe one step like back in terms of the intensity monitoring, and actually probably just start an RPE, particularly if you're doing indoor training, like, because obviously even with a fan you're going to get very warm, so you'll have that sort of what we call cardiac drift, where your heart rate just gradually increases, for the same sort of effort level or intensity. Just ride to perception of effort, I think, probably initially, and then sort of look at sort of building on that as you go. But same sort of rules as we discussed earlier, like, apply. Majority easy, so it should feel sort of like a 4 out of 10, and then 1 or 2 sort of quality sessions where you can sort of up things to like 8 and above, but keep it easy. Initially go on your perception of efforts, and start slow and get there, because indoor training can be quite you don't do too much of it, you generally hate the indoor trainer, but it can be quite like deceptive. You think like 45 minutes or an hour and like, I'm not doing enough, but you can get a good sort of stimulus from that, particularly if you're pretty new to riding.
So that's the Q&A. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you want any more information on Ben or Science to Sport or anything, I'll link everything down below: website, Twitter, all that kind of stuff.
Hate
Check
mail.
it out. So thanks for watching.